Hello there, November. We are officially in the fall. Or does this count as winter? Like, I am not sure entirely what season this counts as because it seems like in the UK we're having some crazy weather. At the time of recording this, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Although I do say that in like early September, thinking in 2 months' time, clearly the weather will be different. But it's been an interesting year, and actually the reason that I raised the whole weather thing is because this year has changed on so many levels for business, for the world generally, and the weather has been one of those things that I've always thought of in my life as being some kind of constant, right? You have the four seasons and it's great and it's reliable. And this year that just has not happened. Like we had this Indian summer, which I'm not complaining about, by the way. I'm a big fan of warm weather, particularly living in the UK where it literally rains about 3/4 of the year. But it's also been a good reminder that, things are changing and they're becoming less reliable across the whole world, economically, politically, climate change-ily. Don't think that's a word. But it's true, and it's been really interesting. It's been really interesting to watch and ultimately to hear about. And I'm kind of sat here, I'm gearing up for a really exciting November. And I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to be up to this month as well. For me, November is one of those months where actually it starts to get really interesting. I am a little bit obsessive about getting promotions right just before Christmas and making sure that, I'm going to be reaching out to people that I want in my mastermind next year. So if you get a little tap on the shoulder from me or a little email from me unexpectedly, then open it up. It might be an invitation to my mastermind, which is invite only for 2020, which is very exciting. In fact, it was invite only actually for 2019, so I don't really know what the difference is. But I'm very excited about that. I'm putting together all of the strategy for 2020, and obviously in just over 2 weeks' time, we've got the Converting Corporates event, which I'm really excited about. Now, I don't know at the time of recording whether there will be tickets left for the event. We seem to be doing really well on that front so far, which is lovely, but there are under 20 tickets left at the time of recording. So if you are only just hearing about the Converting Corporates event and you're thinking, actually, I would like to attend, then we have opened up a virtual option so that you can attend if you are an international delegate and you don't want to fly, or perhaps you don't have the time to fly to the event. Then you can grab a virtual ticket as well. So that if you can't be with us over the 2 days, you can make sure that you make use of the incredible workshops, get access to all of the incredible recordings, and have a special Q&A session with me as well. So if you are interested in adding a corporate revenue stream in 2020 and beyond, then make sure that you grab yourself a virtual ticket. Anyhow, on to the good stuff. So today on the show, I'm really excited. I've got Joseph Hogue on the show today. And we've had this really interesting conversation that went in a few different directions. So Joseph is a guy who has this incredibly interesting background. He was a member of the Marine Corps in the US. He wears incredibly jazzy bow ties, which I found on Google, which I love. He is somebody who is very knowledgeable in the finance industry. And yet the conversation that we had today is actually a lot about community building, about creating the right audience, cultivating that right audience, and actually the reality of what that looks like. So we're digging in today's episode on just what it took him to get to 100,000 YouTube subscribers, which I think we can all agree is a massive achievement. I think currently I have about 19. I also wouldn't advise that you come and try and find me on YouTube. It's clearly not great. That's why I have 19 subscribers. But we have this really interesting conversation about, what does it really take to grow a large audience, and what does that really mean, and how do you keep people interested and engaged, even if the topic that you're talking about isn't particularly interesting or engaging. So it's a really useful conversation. We have a real giggle, and there are some real breakthrough moments as well, which is always fun to do with a guest. So have a listen. And if you enjoy the episode and you enjoy the jazzy bow ties and the talk and the chat, then make sure you head over onto iTunes and leave a review. It's really, really good for me to know how the show is going down, and make sure we can make it as useful as possible for you, alongside letting other people who may not have listened before know what the show is like, what they can expect, and whether it's good enough to put in their ears for a whole 30 minutes a week. Well, actually 30 minutes twice a week. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I have enjoyed recording it. Okay, Poddies, how exciting is this? I'm very, very excited to introduce Joseph to you today. Welcome to the show.
Jess, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
I'm very excited about this because you have done a number of really, really interesting things. And obviously, when we're on the lookout for guests, we're always looking for people who can bring a new angle to our poddies, our podcast listeners, and basically give some different perspectives on, you know, how their business is operated or what it's been like up until this point. So would you just share with everybody your kind of journey so far? I know there's been a lot, so
Sure.
let's go last 5 years or so, but just so we know how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, sure. I came from a corporate finance equity analyst background. Like most people, I think I really didn't like being part of that not traditional 9 to 5 world. I didn't like not having that control over my own business and my own income. So in 2012, 2013, I started freelancing online, providing services as an equity analyst, and quickly kind of evolved that into different blog properties. So I own 4 blogs, 4 websites, all within that personal finance, investing, and making money online niche. Just this recently, just in 2017, I've kind of evolved that into video through a YouTube channel called Let's Talk Money, and have built that out to over 100,000 subscribers so far. And what I just love about it is not only in that, work from home, online entrepreneur kind of idea of being able to control your financial future and grow that business, but the video just gives me so many opportunities to reach out, connect with people on a face-to-face level, and so it's really a whole nother level of that outreach.
And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because when we think about like the world of finance, I think it can be quite easy to get caught up and think, oh, well, it's all dull, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember being back in my corporate job, and we always used to sit there and be like, oh my goodness, the people in finance, they just don't want us to have anything nice or fun. Like, they're always the people who have to ultimately pull the plug on certain things. So I think
Sure.
video is such a nice way to overcome that and show that people actually are personable despite the topic. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And it's funny you should mention that, because I just got back from a conference in DC, where I was talking about growing your YouTube channel, and your being able to present the ideas. And I think probably with your audience as well as what I told them, I feel 99% confident that the people listening to this are experts in their field. Their problem isn't going to be that information or what they're delivering. They've spent the time to become experts in their field, to continuously learn their field and be able to provide good information. The problem there is with these people is that delivery. Being able to hold people, captivate people with a video, with a blog, or a podcast, and keep them listening for 30 or 45 minutes in the sometimes very engaging topic of saving on your car insurance, right?
That is what I'm particularly interested in at the moment. Actually, I'm just thinking about buying a new car. So any tips, like, you let me know.
Sure. But yeah, it's really the delivery that I think most of the people in our community, most of those experts, those subject matter experts, really need to work on, is that delivery, that engagement, and building a community around your brand, so that people follow you into any topic. Really, that's one of the problems on YouTube with a lot of channels, and as well as podcasts, is that we're all multidimensional people, right? We like to talk about different things, but our subscribers, our viewers, the people in our community might not be interested in every topic we want to talk about. So the idea is building a brand around your personality, being able to deliver any content in a interesting and engaging way, so that people, come to your podcast or your channel, regardless of the topic really that you're delivering.
So I think that's really interesting. Actually, you've pulled up one of my favorite, if most bastardized words, I think, in the current time, is that whole idea of being a subject matter expert. And what I'm really interested in is your thoughts on how that relates to becoming and I use the word influencer with a kind of look of horror on my face, but becoming an influencer in your field, because arguably, we do need now, if we are going to be successful in business, we need to stand out, we need to have some kind of level of influence, we need an audience. So, these are basic things. But it's interesting that you also raised the point of not a lot of people who are going out there and creating YouTube videos are experts. So in your mind, what do you think matters, when we're talking about creating this community and ultimately giving people information and serious advice,
Sure.
how do they know how important it is, or why should they be looking only for the experts rather than the people who can make the funniest, almost gimmicky videos?
Absolutely. Well, there's, and that's another side of it, is that, yeah, you do need to spend that time and have that commitment to learn your trade and and become an expert. And I think part of convincing, or I guess persuading your viewers that you have that expertise, is just building, like I said, building your brand around yourself as a personality and sharing some of the factors in that brand building. So within brand building, you've got different things that different factors of that, like your creation story, right? Every good superhero has a creation story. So these are the inflection points in your life, that really led you to where you are today, the big decisions you had to make, um, as well as education, training, just different points of credibility that you have. You're sharing shared beliefs within your brand building, iconic leaders, inflection points and big decision points within their life, to really build a brand around yourself and your channel. So your podcast, your YouTube channel, whatever that might be. And I think that that not only helps to demonstrate, your credibility for people, and to separate yourself from all the million other channels out there, but it also, again, it builds that brand or that community sense around you as an individual, so that people do come back to you, whether they're interested in the topic or not.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because what you're effectively talking about there is that idea of like brand loyalty, almost. Even if they're
Sure,
not
absolutely.
interested, we're talking about that concept around brand loyalty, and they still want to have you in their ears, or watching your videos, because ultimately they are. Well, ultimately people are quite habitual. We like to do the same things repetitively, but also because they like you as a person.
Sure, sure. Well, and know this as well as I do. I mean, one of the big tragedies in our line of business is that it's not enough just to create an excellent product or an excellent service. All that time you've spent committing to your craft, learning how to deliver it, or what to deliver, is really pointless if you don't have a good funnel or sales strategy. And that community building, I feel like, is really, a part of the sales strategy that so many people avoid. I think about it as that community building aspect of your sales strategy is really that kind of like the organic search engine optimization that you might do with blogging or with podcasts, right? You build that community, and those people are going to come back to you, whether you're advertising or whatever you're doing. Whereas a lot of these other funnel approaches or other marketing strategies, those are kind of like paid advertising, right? They really dry up once you stop pushing them or pushing money towards them. So yeah, that community building. No, yeah, it's not to say that people don't need funnel systems and advertising, and I still do that with all of my products, of course. But yeah, that community building idea and brand building, that is your organic sales system that's going to just going to keep on working forever.
And I think you're right in terms of like the longevity of it. Obviously, community building will always last longer because you're encouraging people to be part of something bigger than themselves. Whereas with paid advertising, you effectively are just saying to them, get what you can from this one exchange.
Absolutely, absolutely, great point.
That's really interesting. So let's talk about this, because your history, your background, you come from a background in the Marines before you went into corporate finance, right?
Yes, yes. I was out of the Marine Corps in 2001 and started my life as a equity analyst and but loved my time in the military. I think it's really where it started a lot of those ideas of building a community and something around yourself and bigger than yourself, where a lot of those ideas started.
And I think it's funny because obviously I'm an army brat, so I kind of have a similar relationship towards community that you do. And I think one of the interesting things that's always come up for me and that I've seen from people in the military is this idea of like no person left behind. And I think that's something that's quite hard when you go into the online information space. I guess, one of my questions for you is, have you ever felt like you wanted to save people from the kind of gimmicky video creators out there who are just pumping out information that's wrong? Has that ever been a concern for you, that you are worried about the quality of information that's going around on the internet?
Wow, I have never thought of it that way, but I have thought about that. The deeper sense of it. I've never thought, maybe that's where it comes from, but there's definitely a sense that there are so many, spammy clickbait products and services out there. The barriers to entry for becoming an entrepreneur or offering some kind of business services has just been lowered to zero
Mm.
over the past 20 years, right? Basically, anyone with an internet connection can be an expert. Quote, got my quotation fingers up there. So yeah, there is definitely a need for people that can, that can have that community feel with their business. And in this sense, I guess I use the word community in that community building or that sense of helping other people. But yeah, that's a great point, I think.
There you go. Look, Jessica Lorimer, psychoanalyzing people since 1989. Coming up to my 30th birthday, and that's my new pastime.
Wow, I think we just had a breakthrough, Doc.
There you go. You'll never need to pay a mind tax for it ever again. It'd be great. I'm incredibly jealous. So let's talk about this whole piece around dedication, because 100,000 YouTube subscribers is a lot, especially when we consider the fact that audience attention is so short these days, especially when we consider the fact that people churn through information, and like you say, like, not everybody is the expert they make out. So it actually takes a lot of time and dedication to hit that magic number. I mean, how long has it actually taken you?
Oh, it does. It takes an immense amount of, I'd say, work, not necessarily time, because I've really only been doing it for 2 years. I started my YouTube channel in 2015, really just as a way to host video summaries of the blog posts, and then I'd embed them on the blogs. I never really, thought about YouTube as an asset in itself. And of course, I got nowhere, but I didn't care. 2 years later, I had all of about 22 subscribers, maybe about 7 videos on the channel. But I didn't care because I wasn't growing it or wasn't using it as its own asset. So then in December 2017, I started developing it as its own asset, as its own distribution platform, doing first 2 videos a week, now 3, and then a live stream. And yeah, over the last 2 years, built it up to 100,000 people in the community. Love that face-to-face relationship and the things that I can't do on a blog. So as an equity analyst, I've always had to write with pure factual information, right? Never sharing my opinion on an investment, things like that. So I never learned how to share my personality in my writing on the blogs. Well, when you go to video, then the opportunities to share your personality through what you're wearing, through your background, those visual branding ideas, and things like that are just so much easier and so much more influential. So yeah, last 2 years, but it has been a lot of work learning YouTube, how YouTube works to show your videos to different to different people. Really, a lot of that is getting those positive signals from viewers, as far as people clicking on your videos, people watching the whole video, things like that. That I think a lot of YouTube creators don't really understand well. And of course, that's the reason that it actually takes about 22 months for the average YouTube channel to get to 1,000 subscribers,
Wow.
let alone 100,000.
Crazy, isn't it? Because we're in this kind of world, and obviously I'm a podcaster, so one of the things that my podcast producer Scott always used to say to me when I started the podcast was that it's going to take time. Podcasts take longer to grow than other things. And I think that sometimes we can get so caught up with this like online celebrity culture that people do think it's only going to take 5 minutes and then I'm going to have 3, 10, 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. But actually, it's nice to know that there is a barrier to entry on certain platforms. It's not just that everyone's getting on Facebook and, kind of saying, okay, great, well, I can set up any kind of profile I want. And now guess what? I've got a bunch of likes and buy them.
Sure, and I think that is one of the great benefits of video and YouTube in particular is that there are some more barriers than your traditional blogging or other things.
Mm.
There's not only the costs to buy decent camera equipment, which are obviously coming down quite a bit with smartphones, but just that idea of being comfortable on camera, being able to be on camera in front of people, and just some of those. I think maybe some of those emotional barriers that I think a lot of people run into with being on video. So it's definitely something that can protect those that do start a channel and start to reach out and build a community through that.
And do you think it's more nerve-wracking for people to sell on camera? I mean, I can't actually believe I'm using the phrase nerve-wracking with somebody who used to be in the Marines. But in comparison to the majority of things that you would do in your business, would you say that most people struggle to sell on video because it's that idea they're looking at themselves in the camera and they're having to actually effectively sell to themselves before somebody else?
Sure, and I think that's one of those big barriers that we look at it, and that benefits those that can get over that distress. But anytime as you have that continuum that where you're getting closer and closer to an actual face-to-face interaction with someone that you're trying to sell to, then yeah, you're going to have a little bit more stress. I think probably on the opposite side of that continuum is just blogging, where basically you're just writing out whatever you want to say. It's very very one-sided. You're not looking at that other person. You're not talking to them. And then you move through that to podcasting is obviously much more interactional and engaging. You're actually talking to somebody, but then you've got video where you're talking to them, you're seeing them, they're seeing you. So it's much more personal, much more much more, I guess, like you said, stressful, nerve-wracking to think that people are actually looking at you while you're trying to sell them or guide them through that decision-making process.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, again, there's been a huge difference in the last few years with the rise of live video. And I always preferred, before I got too lazy and wanted to spend every day in my pajamas, I preferred selling on live video to selling on a pre-recorded video, because obviously the thing about, or the great thing about being on a live video is that you get to see that immediate audience reaction. And actually it doesn't have to, or it didn't have to in my mind, when we look at 2016, 2017, have to be massively high quality in terms of the visuals. Like, people are perfectly happy to watch you on a Facebook Live in your kitchen and be quite entertained by that, and give positive interaction. And when you're selling on that, obviously you're seeing it, you're picking up that energy, so you feel really good about sales. Where when you're on a pre-recorded, actually it must be quite difficult to get your energy to that point, and it's almost like having to imagine yourself in the room full of people and then getting excited about it.
Sure. Well, and there's so much there. Really, the one idea that live is an opportunity for a lot of people. I see so many YouTube channels or video creators that don't do live streams, and you're right. People will watch a live stream, will watch you live, and they'll give up maybe even a little bit of picture quality, a little bit audio quality. They'll give up that sense that everything is scripted and very well crafted. That you might get in a recorded video, just to have that face-to-face and that live interaction. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to use that, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, any platform, to really reach out on that next level of personal interaction with live videos. And yeah, you're right. You can get comfortable, conversational in your live streams, and be able to deliver that sales pitch. The other side to that is, I lost my train of thought. I,
Don't worry, it happens to all of us.
the other side of that is not important, evidently. But yeah, I think live streaming is just that next level, really, of interaction and engagement with your community. Show them that it's not just a one-way, a one-way pitch. Even in video, you can get that engagement, you can get that interaction, and I think people really appreciate live streams for your time, and for you being present in their lives.
And do you, like in your business, when you're using video as a tool or as your more primary form of content, do you think, or do you look at your business and say, we use live streaming differently than we use pre-recorded video? Like, do you use live streaming to give back to your community in the form of Q&As, or do you use them both for the same thing? Because obviously they're still the same content medium, but they have really clear differences.
Sure. And I think I do. And part of that is just the way YouTube works as a distribution platform. So for my live streams, I'll use them mostly, or mainly, I guess, for that community building idea,
Mm.
right? It's a chance for me to get that live feedback from people, to respond to people, to actually, say their name, and show them that I appreciate their influence in the community, as well as just them showing up to the live feed. So I'll do a lot more of that kind of Q&A, talking about comments that I received on videos over the last week or so. Much more of that community-based idea there. Though I'll also try to talk about some kind of a content, or a product or a service within the recorded videos. Obviously, it's the other side. It's that informational aspect of the channel. Trying to give people quality information, and then guide them through a decision-making process to either a product or a service or a sponsor, or something like that.
And that's what I really love about what you're saying here, is that everything ultimately is designed to get people to that next decision point, whether it's a product or a service or a sponsorship, or just, going and checking you out on a live stream, or somewhere else. Because I think a lot of people get quite afraid to move people around. They don't want them to make another decision, almost, because ultimately they're scared that person might go, oh well, I don't want to go from YouTube to Facebook, or I don't want to be sold a product or a service at the end of a really informative video. What would you say to those people who do worry about that?
Sure, and I think you hit on it right there, that people are worried about being salesy, or the hard sell, things like that. But if you really believe in what you're selling, and this is something that I got from your previous interview with, I think it was Marianne. I can't remember her last name. Marianne Cook, I want to say. Okay, there you go. There you go. And she's, talking about believing in your product and your service, and really letting that evolve, and using your passion behind your products. And I think that, if you truly believe that what you're doing is helping people, and it doesn't have to help everyone, it just has to help your people, help your tribe, your community, to do a specific thing, then you're not selling them, really. You're helping them with a solution. But I think within that, something else that you said that kind of triggered something I was thinking about, is that, yeah, you can't just sell them into a product or service with one mention, with one video, or with one blog post, or a podcast. You have to actively guide people through that decision making process, with maybe a podcast, or a video first on awareness, helping them become aware of that problem, and the different ideas that might solve it, and then gradually narrowing them, or guiding them through that, through another one on another podcast, or video on comparisons, or different options or solutions available, and then gradually guiding them again until you're ready to talk about that product or service. uh, because people just have ad blindness, right? We see so
Mm.
many commercials every day, that we tune out anytime we get those warning signs, anytime something triggers in our mind that this is a commercial, that this is a sales pitch. So it's got to be much more than just a commercial. It has to be a guided funnel from okay, I know you have these problems because I had these problems. Here are the things I looked at to solve this, and here are some solutions, some comparisons that you can use.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because people, like you say, we are ad blind now. And I was just thinking as you were saying that, it reminded me of the James Bond films back in the day when you didn't have to say that you were paying for advertising on a film or on a TV program. Do you remember everyone went out and they were like, oh my God, I'm going to buy this certain type of laptop because James Bond has one. And then as
Yeah, because
they
he's using
started,
it.
well, that's it. Everyone wanted to be a spy secretly.
Oh, it's beautiful. I actually I just bought the box set of the Twilight Zone, right?
Oh
The Twilight Zone
no.
series, all five. Have always loved it. And where I am, we don't get the annual New Year's marathon on Sci-Fi Channel. So I had to buy the box set. And anyway, so within that, they do it. They're Rod Serling, he does his little monologue before and after each episode. So it's so funny. He'll do the monologue to the episode, and then he'll go right into, and here's something that's not weird: the smooth taste of Oasis brand cigarettes. Have an Oasis before you see this next episode. And of course, this was 1961 when smoking was still good for you. But yeah, it is amazing how advertising has evolved and into different kinds of medium and pitches.
And it is funny because ultimately, we are a generation of consumers who we buy what we see that can evoke either some kind of emotion for us or that can solve a particular problem for us. And I think it's quite interesting, since we've been told in films, oh, this contains product placement or things like that, people have actually bought less of those things. It's like they all thought, oh well, if James Bond has an Aston Martin, of course I can have one. Like, that's all good. Like, it doesn't matter that they're about $300 squillion, or however much Aston Martins are these days. But it's an interesting concept to think about, because ultimately, we are all just trying to grab attention in the newsfeed now. And like you said earlier, if you are doing it in a way that is higher barrier to entry, it's almost like consumers, because consumers are smart, they realize and recognize, okay, these people are putting in more effort, so actually I will give them the attention for perhaps a longer period of time than I'd give somebody who was just kind of spamming my newsfeed every 5 minutes with, buy my, Tupperware or whatever.
Sure, sure. And we've come full circle back to that idea of building a community.
Exactly.
The building a community around yourself as a personality, and a community that trusts you in the ideas or the brands and services that you promote.
I love that. So tell us, you've got an exciting book that's coming out this year. Tell us about that.
Actually, I've got two books that came out with this year. The one in November, I'll be coming out with a book on self-publishing, and by far my favorite passive income resource or income source that I've used with the 4 blogs, with the YouTube channel. I've got 12 books out on Amazon, and none of them are huge runaway success stories, but each one makes between $200 and $300 a month. Passive income. I developed it into my content strategy in the YouTube videos as well as the blogs. So I really don't have to do anything to promote them, and it's that extra income source of $2,000 or $3,000 a month that really frees up my time to devote to other products and other services. So the book is really kind of a procedural guide to developing a book idea, to self-publishing it, and really to making that idea of passive income, where you can just create a book every 2 or 3 months, release those, and have that income stream.
I love that. That's so interesting. And as somebody who self-published a couple of years ago, it's a bloody hard thing to do if you don't have the right information. It is a really, really difficult thing to do, because I think, people often think like writing the book is the difficult bit. They're like, oh my goodness, how on earth will I write the book? And for me, the writing of the book was, that was fine. But it's all about that ongoing marketing of the book and making sure you've got this evergreen content that you obviously back up with your YouTube channel and things, to make sure that you're consistently selling it and creating that passive income.
Sure, sure. Well, it's like any product or service. It's tragically it's not in that creation, because there there's just so many books out there. You do have to have that system where you're getting just enough organic sales a month from blogs, from podcasts, what have you, that it kind of triggers that system, or that ranking system on Amazon, and you get those other sales. So what I usually do maybe about $20 a month on Amazon marketing services for ads, right?
Hmm.
I'll get another say 100 to 120 sales a month that are come organically from the blogs, from the YouTube channel. But that's enough to juice that algorithm, to kickstart that algorithm, where I'll get, you know, another 400 or 500 copies sold of the books just from Amazon itself.
That's amazing, isn't it? Like because I think people can think it's, especially when we start talking about advertising over the last couple of years has gotten really expensive. So it is good to know that you can still use $20 in some platforms and they actually make money.
Sure. Yeah, it's Amazon really has well, obviously a world leading e-commerce platform there, and they've got the ad system down to a T. But yeah, it is. I've pretty much given up on Facebook advertising. I think it's just gotten so expensive. Uh, YouTube, I think, is following close behind in how much it's costing to advertise things. So yeah, Amazon is I think one of the last bastions to advertise cheaply, and really drive enough sales that you rank organically on the platform.
Well, we do love Amazon. I'm a massive Amazon Prime fan. So just for that, I will continue to keep ordering my wine every week through them. I love it.
Funny.
Thank you so much for coming on today. Honestly, this has been amazing. Where can people find you? Where is the best place for people to go and look? Obviously, you've got your incredible YouTube channel, but where should they be looking for which pieces?
Sure. Well, like I said, I love building the community there on Amazon, or on YouTube, and I love the engagement I get from back and forth from people. Actually, have those 4 blogs. I think the one that's most relevant here would be myworkfromhomemoney.com, and that's just the blog where I share my experience in growing online businesses, growing as an online entrepreneur, and that includes the YouTube channel, as well as the blogs and self publishing.
That's amazing. So there you go, guys. If you need more Joseph in your life, which I'm guessing you do, and also just as an FYI, if you do look him up on Google, he's wearing a very snazzy bow tie. You could always do it just for that and then go and find all the other good stuff. Then make sure that you head over to those links. We've got them in the show notes for you. And also, if you have enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you seek us out on social and let us know what your key takeaway was from the episode. Joseph, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Jess, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
And Poddies, I will see you on Monday for the next episode.